Attention all crew. Hailing frequencies are now open for our mission specialists. Cribl's Senior Staff Product Manager, Glenn Block, and Senior Product Manager, Giovanni Mola.
Thanks, everybody. How's everybody doing? Great to have you here. My name is Glenn Block. I work on our integrations team at Cribl. So if you're doing anything with getting data in or sending data out, you're probably touching on things that my team works on. REST Collector is one of the other big things that we're responsible for. Right, Gio?
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. My name is Giovanni Mola. I'm a product manager at Cribl, focused specifically on packs. And I'm really excited to talk to you all about all of the latest and greatest we have with packs today.
Awesome. Thanks, Gio. So today we're going to be talking about a bunch of things. We're going to start off talking about some of the challenges that you have today when you work with REST Collector and our REST Collector templates. We're then going to talk to you about something new that we're just launching called REST Packs. And then we're going to go deeper into how those REST Packs work and how you can build them. And then we're going to tell you about some really exciting things coming in the roadmap, including things that weren't planned, but thanks to Scott, we're going to talk about those as well.
You get to take a little peek into the inside future of where we're going with packs. So it's a lot of good content. Hope you're strapped in. Hope everyone got a drink potentially and are ready to learn about packs today.
Awesome. Okay. So here we have Gio. He is an engineer at Cribl. He's just, working on his day job, and suddenly a message comes in.
Yeah, I was 15 minutes from being off work, and looks like Tuchan is messaging me. So we have a high priority need to get OpenAI audit logs and Akamai SIEM logs into Cribl. Big customer deal writing on this. Okay. Should be pretty easy. Can you get this done in a few hours? Few hours. Okay. I guess I'm not taking the rest of the night off, but I will see if I can use the power of Cribl to make this all happen. So let's see. I will jump into a link where I see all of these REST collectors, and okay, this isn't that bad. Copy the contents of a breaker, get a rule set in. I mean, yeah, I can do this. Some copy pasting, no problem. Okay, second one, Akamai SIEM. What do we have here? Whoa, okay. A few more steps in this one. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be off too soon now, so this might get a little interesting. Maybe Glenn can help me. I'm going to have to see.
Okay. So let's go back to the slides. Thank you, Gio. So what you saw here is Gio's trying to use the REST collector. He's trying to get multiple things in, and there are several challenges with that. There's a bunch of manual steps. You saw in the case of that Akamai SIEM example, it might be 20 plus steps. You've got a lot of config that you have to copy, event breakers, pipelines, HMAC functions, adding in variables, and a bunch of manual wiring. It's error prone, it's tedious. As Gio said, he wants to go home. It's not easily discovered. Gio knew about the templates, but if you're a new Cribl customer, you may not know these things exist. How do you find them? How do you use them? Wouldn't it be great if you could just search from within the product, click a button to install, and you had this all done for you? Wouldn't that be really helpful to be able to do that?
It would help me, for sure.
Well, we're excited to announce REST Packs, and REST Packs is going to make it really easy for you to be able to get rid of a lot of that pain of working with these templates and get going using the REST collector to bring in data that we don't support out of the box. So we're going to get rid of all the manual steps. We're going to give you a pack in the dispensary that's ready to go, and we're going to get you to a browse, click, install. So let's see how easy that is using OpenAI logs. Actually, I'll go forward and then I'll come back. Oh, sorry, go back. Something's off on there. Okay, So before I move on, so you're going to have REST packs in the dispensary. Right now, we're launching about 8 or 9 different packs. We've taken some of the most common REST collector templates and we've ported them into packs. So they're available on the dispensary, so you can easily install them. You can configure them to send both to any of your existing destinations in the worker group, or you can add them to send to destinations within the pack itself. We'll talk more about this. And so the way the architecture is going to work is that by default, all the data from the pack is going to flow to the default destination for the worker group. But what you can do is you can configure that default destination so you can change where that is going to go within the worker. And we're going to show how you can do some more advanced things, which Gio is going to talk about, in order to be able to allow you to leverage your existing destinations that exist within the group. So I'm going to give you a demo right now so you can see how REST packs work. Okay, so what you can see here, what you can see here is that I've got my list of packs, and I can add packs from the dispensary. And so if I go to the dispensary and I use rest-io, do we have connectivity? It's not.
It says we have full bars.
Interesting. Okay, we're going to skip that. So I'm going to go add locally, which we prepared for this. So I can't access the dispensary today, but I'm just going to show you the pack. Right now, it's locally on disk. This is also important because you can create your own packs. So I'm going to click Open. And what this is going to do is import my OpenAI pack. So if I click on this, you'll see that under Sources, I already have pre-configured a REST collector for pulling down data from OpenAI. The only thing I need to do now is to change my bearer token. So if I come here, and yes, this is live, but it's read-only. So paste my bearer token.
You're going to want to go back there and keep bearer in there.
Oh, did I pull it out? Sorry about
Yes.
that. Thank you. So now I'm going to run this and in preview mode. And you can see that I'm now pulling down events from OpenAI. So that was pretty easy. So we found the pack. Well, we couldn't find it in the dispensary. We installed the pack. We configured variables. I haven't played around with destinations, but you're going to learn more about that. So yeah, so that's the basics of REST packs.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that.
Yep,
showdown.
I'll hand it off to you.
Amazing.
There you go, Gio.
Thanks, Glenn. So now I'm really excited to talk about some of the advanced use cases you can take advantage of with REST packs. So first, let's cover what's inside of a REST pack and what are these whole packs with sources and destination thing. So in this last release, we finally closed the gap on all of the sources and destinations that are available on stream at the top level of the worker group are now available directly in packs. So this goes beyond REST collector individually, but you're actually going to get all of the supported collectors. So that's going to be like your S3, your Azure Blob, your GCP storage, Cribl Lake. All of these can now be configured as a source directly inside the pack. So when you take a step deeper, that's going to be reflected in the jobs.yaml file, if you are familiar with our backend configs. There's going to be things that you also need in order for this to work. So this is going to be HMAC functions, database connections, event breakers, all of the things in the knowledge objects that allow you to have this full connectivity will now be available to be contained in packs. And this is another good reminder. Packs are completely containerized, where you have a source, you need to add a destination. What this does is allow you to have data get picked up, processed, and then delivered to a final destination, all wrapped up in a portable object that you can transfer across worker groups, across fleets. You can do change management across different environments. There's a lot of cool capabilities that come with packs, especially now that the entire end-to-end telemetry stream is completely bundled within a pack context. So, taking this one step deeper, Glenn talked about what the architecture of the baseline REST collector pack looks like. In that visual, you have several different REST collector inputs that you can configure. For example, we have an Okta, a CrowdStrike, a Duo. Those collectors still will get routed through the filter expressions and then assigned to specific pipelines before eventually getting a default destination assigned to those specific source types. So when you jump in here and you download a new pack, this is where you'll be able to continue to use the default destination or add a new destination within the context of that pack, which will guarantee that flow. So now I'm going to talk about a use case where you can actually get data out of these packs today, and you can do that through the default destination when using an output router. So this is a visual of what that looks like. So we have a worker group, have US East 1, since we're all on the East Coast today, and we've set the default destination to an output router. Now that output router is going to contain all of the logic that can get all of the data coming from my source packs, which are reflected in these Okta REST IO pack, O365 REST IO pack, and CrowdStrike REST IO pack, into the specific destination that's already configured at the group level. So the way that is done is all of these REST packs that you'll find on the dispensary have an underscore field, which is basically applying specific metadata to each of these sources so that you can have the logic available to you to route that data wherever you want it to go. And now I'm going to jump in and show you exactly how we're going to do that. So right now, I'm opening up another one of my packs that is pulling in data from OpenAI. As you can see in this filter expression on my routes page, I've set this specific ID, which is going to be attached to every one of my sources that I can configure. So that is the reference point where if we jump into the REST collector and I go down to the results tab, you can see that I've enriched all of the data coming off of this with some metadata that will help me get this data to the destination that I need it to go while leaving the pack completely untouched. So this pack it comes with a source. Its destination by default is set to just the default destination, which I will go back to the routes page and you can see we're routing to default. But this doesn't prevent me from going in and adding a different destination. If there is a different destination that I wanted to send that data to, all of that is still available to me. Again, this is a fully contained end-to-end telemetry stream where you have sources picking up the data, routes and pipelines shaping that data, and the destination sitting directly inside the context of your pack. Now, again, we'll talk about how this data is hitting this default destination. So I'll get outside of the packs, and I will go to this destination. So as you see here, I have this output router. And in this output router, I've used that metadata to anchor the specific locations I want this data to be routed to. So you can see I have my REST IO, this OpenAI audit log going to my local file system. I have this Okta logs also going to a local file system. All of these expressions are easily expandable, and you can make this as complex and intricate as needed. But the main point being, you download all of these packs, and then all of a sudden, with an output router, you can get them to the pre-configured destinations that are sitting on your group. So how do I set my default? So if we go to the default on the worker group, we can see this is where I can select that output router. And I have the option to set any destination. If I want it to be S3 and arbitrary just dump to a specific S3 bucket or object storage, that is available to me too. But this allows us to apply some additional routing logic to the end-to-end use case. Now I'm going to go back into my pack, and I'm going to show some of the data that we're flowing into the output router. So here I can see if go to some of the jobs that are running so you can see where this is actually being scheduled and run. So here in my job inspector, I can see for the past 30 plus minutes, I've had this job executing every single time. I have access to all of these logs. And you'll also notice that there's a specific column in this lister page telling me which pack this specific job collector is running from. So I have the end-to-end capability to troubleshoot this, to look into the logs, to audit anything that might go wrong when a job is running. So with that, I'll talk about what's next. So this is just the first step of allowing more flexibility when it comes to how data enters and exits packs. And what I mean by that is we covered today that these source collector packs can get you to a default destination. And when you set that default destination to an output router, you can get that data strategically assigned to any destination you have configured on the group. Now, what does it look like as we push the envelope here to make this even more flexible? So what you'll notice in this diagram is I have in the left-hand side several different packs. All of them are representing the end-to-end telemetry stream. So these packs do contain sources, they do contain destinations, data is flowing between them. But what I will eventually have is the ability to set a meta destination that will get the data out of that pack and to the top of my output, the top of my global routes page. So now everything sitting at the global routes page will be able to handle the same logic that the output router I just showed you is handling today. So this is where we're going with the future of packs. And the flexibility is that you can still containerize your packs end to end, but you can set destinations that are arbitrary to get to your routes table. And then you can also set destinations that arbitrarily receive from data that would be assigned from the routes table. So definitely look for updates in the next 6 months on how we allow you to have data interact with different packs. But this is a preview of what that will look like. And in this next maintenance release, we're also releasing pack variables. So full support for pack variables, where you'll actually be able to download one of these packs, go to the variables tab of that pack, and instead of having to find which specific field in the actual collector you need to change, Glenn quickly found that it was the authentication field, and he put the access token in there. But we'll be able to templatize this in a way such that you can put that directly in the variables and just populate that specific value and have it be more obvious.
And some of the collectors have much more sophisticated configuration where there are other kinds of variables that you might want to change. So rather than you having to dig into the configuration, you'll get a nice experience for just being able to supply those values.
It gets even better with the pack configuration wizard. So this wizard will be looking for those variables, as Glenn was stating, and it will visually populate it. So if you ever have new users who haven't used the tool yet, they will have access to a visual flow where they can complete the values of the templated variables within that pack, immediately commit and deploy, and then they've operationalized an entire end-to-end use case with Cribl. It gets even more exciting when we talk about group variables. Now, these are variables that sit at the worker group level or the fleet level. And when you assign different packs across these different groups or these different fleets, any variables that are assigned at that level, the pack would immediately be able to inherit those. So there is zero configuration in that world. And that really extends the power of templating with packs.
Awesome. So this is the one that Scott wanted me to talk about. So if you've used REST Collector, you've likely gotten into a situation where you can't figure out what the heck is going on. And we hear this all the time from customers. Anybody has experienced this? Like, what is Cribl sending? What is coming back? Why won't discovery work? And of course, this relates to the packs work, because as you start to use REST Collector more, you're going to have to deal with more things that might be failing. So how can you figure it out? So we're going to be investing to embed an inline diagnostic experience within Cribl. So we hear a lot of customers say, oh, we use Postman or we use curl. But this is going to allow you to see exactly what is being sent. And if you look at this, mock-up here, which I don't know, it looks like it's not formatting exactly right. What you can see is that you can actually inspect for a specific run of the REST collector, and you can see at each point what headers are being sent, what payloads are being sent. You'll be able to see status codes, everything that you would expect to have access to within a tool like Postman, only really tailored to the REST collector experience. So we're also looking at supporting other types of tools like Postman, but our fundamental principle is we don't want you to feel like you have to leave the REST collector to diagnose failures that happen within REST collector. So, and this is going to be even bigger than this. Eventually, this is going to make its way into HTTP-based sources and destinations within Cribl. So all of this is just going to help you to be more effective at figuring out when things go wrong, which will happen because nothing's perfect. And so we're very excited about this, and this should be coming within the next few quarters. So look for it soon. Okay, so you've just learned about REST packs and how it's going to really make it easier to get going, especially for people that are new to Cribl and new to the REST collector. REST packs are going to be discoverable. You'll find them right within the product. We'll have more documentation on them. You'll be able to get them out of the dispensary, and you can create your own. So you can go in your company, you can copy the packs that we have, you can create new ones, you can submit to the dispensary. So this is really going to enable an ecosystem around the REST collector in a way that was just not possible before. So go for it, rest easy. And so if you scan this code, it's going to send you to a bunch of resources, including a quick start that we have on our site, in our docs about how to get going, talking to Okta. Okta is one of the really common requests we get from our customers when they start onboarding to Cribl. So that will take you through that. And we're going to be adding more and more documentation. And you'll see more and more enhancements, as we were talking about, coming out of the REST collector experience. And eventually, you'll even see these things show up as tiles within Cribl. But no telling when that's going to happen, but it will happen. Awesome. Well, thank you all very, very much. I guess we didn't plan it, but we do have some time for a couple of questions if anybody has questions. Okay.
Hi, thanks for the demo for this. But I have a question. Like, so if I have a lookup on the default knowledge objects, so can I inherit that lookup file in either one of the packs, like which is in the different worker group?
So you're going to have to bring, if you need that lookup for like actual processing that is internal to the pack, you would need to bring that lookup inside of the pack. When we get to like group specific objects, that's when we would be able to access lookups similar to accessing those like group level or global variables. But today, if you did want to use that lookup table in like some part of the pack that is processing the data, you would need to bring that into the pack.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure. Anybody else?
Yeah, here. Quick question. Are packs version controlled?
Yes.
Great question.
Over here.
Yeah, great question. There is a settings page where you can apply different versions to your packs. You can integrate all of your packs with external Git repositories. So an external Git repo can be represented within a pack itself, which allows you to also do different branches for a pack. You can tag packs. So there's a ton of flexibility when it comes to version control and collaboration there. So long answer is yes. And
Great question.
there's a lot of other things you can do.
Do your variables survive the upgrade?
Are the variables inside of the pack?
Yeah,
or?
like your authentication.
So it depends which kind. It depends on which operation. If you export your pack to the file system, we will scrub any sensitive objects. So any obfuscated keys in that configuration will get scrubbed. If instead you're cloning to different groups and you're using that clone API, then those authentication details will remain intact. It largely depends on the operation. The recommendation would be using secrets, and packs can read into secrets that are established at the group level. So if you had a secret in one instance and that pack is referencing it, if you have that same pack with a different secret on a different worker group, then it would just templatize that reference point and pull down the secret value from that target worker group that you're trying to deploy that pack to. And the same for TLS certificates. So that would be available to you as well. Like that would be something that is stored at the group level on the Cribl instance. And as you go to different groups, all of your auth details, secrets, as well as TLS certs would be available to the pack directly in from the worker group to the pack. So that's available today. You can take advantage of that now. But if it's plain text and you're doing an export, we will scrub it if you're exporting to the file system.
I think he was asking about update. What if a pack gets, like a new version of a pack comes out and I update it? Will my authentication details, for example, be intact?
Yeah, if as long as you're using the secret or the TLS certs that exist on that group and your pack is referencing that, it will not be removed. It'll continue to honor that specific reference point.
Any other questions?
Do you have rate limit control, API rate limit control in packs?
I don't think that would be specific to packs. It'll be the same as the sources and the REST collector. So there's no change in how often you're able to pull from the APIs from pack to global space. Those would be the same settings.
Okay.
Good question. I think we have time for one more.
Yeah.
This was great.
Hi. Thank
Great
you for the demo.
questions.
My question would be the state file configuration in the pack. Would it be tailored along with it when we install the pack?
Yeah, so you can enable state tracking. That would be an additional config that when you pull down that collector JSON within the pack, you have the ability to control the scheduling and then whatever state it's applied, but obviously it needs to run once so that it can enable that it's been run on that group. So I mean, yes, it will initialize after the first run.
But there's no loss in functionality. So when we've done this work, and it was definitely significant work, we wanted to make sure that you're getting a first-class experience. So everything that works today outside the pack should generally work, barring the challenges we talked about with sources and destinations that we're going to make better. But the nice thing about packs is you get that encapsulation, and if you run into an issue, you just get rid of the pack. Everything related to the pack goes with it. So that's going to be a great story for you. Anyway, thank you all for this, for these great questions and for coming to our talk. Enjoy the rest of your event.